Hello. Welcome to the Wisconsin Educational Services Program Deaf and Hard of Hearing Outreach Professional Interview Series. My name is Marianne Barnett, and I'm the transition coordinator on the outreach team. And today I have a friend and former colleague to interview who graciously has offered his time to us. I will let Matt Palma introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Palma. I'm a deaf and hard of hearing teacher in the school district of Janesville. I grew up near Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and I attended the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, where I majored in economics. And I also have several degrees. In addition to that, I have a master's in exercise and sports science from UW-La Crosse as well. And I later went to UW-Milwaukee to receive my teaching certification in deaf and hard of hearing education. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, you gave me a lot of topics there, but the one I'm going to ask you about today is the deaf and hard of hearing educator position, which is the one that you are working in currently. And what was your inspiration? Was there a person or something that inspired you to specifically get that deaf and hard of hearing teacher certification?
Yeah, as I said, my bachelor's degree is in economics. So my undergrad, I wasn't planning on becoming a teacher or going into education. After I graduated from La Crosse, I was very interested in trying to do something different and trying to have a different experience. And so I joined the Peace Corps. And the reason I did that, my inspiration for doing that was I wanted to help students that are a lot like me. I'm hard of hearing myself, and to help students like me in a different country. And so I lived and worked in Kenya for 3 years, where I worked as a teacher there. And that was my initial experience in education, and also truly my first experience in the deaf community, and experiencing deaf culture as I met other deaf and hard of hearing volunteers who are deaf. And so that was sort of my inspiration to become a teacher when I came back to the United States after living in Kenya.
So all your growing up years and your initial college experience, you weren't with a deaf and hard of hearing community at all then?
Nope, not at all. I grew up, I didn't have any deaf or hard of hearing friends. All my friends were hearing. My family is hearing, and so I didn't truly have any kind of connection into the deaf world until I met other hard of hearing and deaf volunteers that are a lot like me. And so that was an eye-opening experience for me to meet them and to see how much we had in common, and to finally, after all those years, share similarities with someone else.
And you had to go all the way to Kenya to find them. I'm glad you came back to Wisconsin. So currently now, as a teacher in the Janesville School District, how much of your time do you work with deaf and hard of hearing kids?
That is my full-time job. I only work with the students in the district that have an IEP in which they require deaf and hard of hearing services. Unfortunately, a lot of my time is spent on the actual writing of the IEPs and managing IEPs, which is time away from the students and more time at a desk and computer doing a lot of paperwork, and holding meetings and answering emails. So that's actually a lot of my time, but I do work with mostly high school students at our two high schools in Janesville that are deaf and hard of hearing.
Well, I'm sure the answer is not going to be the computer or the paperwork, but my question is, what is the most fun part of the job that you're doing now?
I would say definitely working with the students. I actually used to teach at the School for the Deaf, so I very much enjoyed working with profoundly deaf students that use sign language. And so we have a few students here in Janesville that also use sign. And so it's nice. It's nice for me to work with those students and to sign with them. And it's more natural than just sitting at a computer.
Do you have a story that you can share with us on us for a favorite event or a favorite story that you could share with us?
A story about teaching or about?
Yes, something that's happened in your current position. A favorite memory? Something that's happened?
It's hard to find a specific memory. I work with a group of students at one of the schools, and we try to meet every week. And it's just nice to see them all come together and have an outlet where they can interact with other deaf and hard of hearing students, and to have that connection. And unfortunately, I think a lot of DHH students that are in mainstream settings, most of the time they might be the only DHH student in that classroom. And so it's very nice that we're able to once in a while get a group of students together and have them make connections. And I think that's very important. And that's definitely it's an ongoing memory. It's not a specific one, but an ongoing thing that I very much enjoy.
Very nice. And something that you personally have experienced too, then, since you said you grew up without peers.
Yeah, so I do think I have a lot of different life experiences that I'm able to relate to my current students, and I know what they're going through every day in school, and so I think it's very good for them to have someone like me as a role model that can relate to the challenges that they face.
Do you get to work with any other adults who are deaf or hard of hearing?
Obviously at the School for the Deaf, I did, and I really loved that, working with other staff there that are deaf and signing with them. That was very important to me, and I miss all the staff at the school, even though I believe they're all virtual right now. But currently in my job, no, there's no one else that identifies with being deaf. I do work with some. I mean, there are a few older staff members that wear hearing aids and have a hearing loss, but they don't seem to share anything significant with me in relation to their hearing loss.
So if I'm looking for some words of inspiration to the audience, we're hoping that the audience watching this video series, this recorded series, are contemplating careers that would cross into the deaf and hard of hearing world. So do you have some inspirational words or guidance? What could you share with these young people who may be deaf or hard of hearing, but may also be hearing, about becoming a teacher for the deaf and hard of hearing?
I would say it's a great career. It's a very unique teaching job. Oftentimes, I'm an itinerant deaf and hard of hearing teacher is what I should specify. So itinerant means that I work with students in different school buildings, and I'm kind of constantly on the move. And I think when I tell people I'm a teacher, I kind of have to explain more that I'm more like a caseworker, and I don't exactly have my own classroom, and I'm not teaching a class of students. I'm more teaching them one-on-one when I do work with them. And so I would say this kind of job is certainly very unique. It gives you some autonomy to, in a way, be your own boss and be in charge of your own schedule. And so that's a nice part of the job. I'm still very, very busy, but I'm given the freedom to manage my caseload and be where I need to be. But I would say in general to all the students watching, even if you're not interested in a career like this, whatever career you are interested in, don't let your hearing loss hold you back in any way. You can do anything you want, even if you want to be something that is a very challenging career, like a doctor or a lawyer. Like, by all means, you can absolutely do that, and don't let anything hold you back.
You stole my last question and already answered it. It was to ask you if you had any words of wisdom or inspiration in your last comment. If you want to repeat your last comment again, that was just perfect, Matt. Don't let anything hold you back, I believe you said.
Yeah, don't let anything hold you back. Deaf and hard of hearing people can do anything, and don't let. I understand as someone that has had my own unique experiences as a partially deaf person. There are challenges that we all face, but we're all different. We all face different challenges. We all come from different backgrounds. But even people in the hearing world have their own challenges. And so don't view it as a challenge. Just don't let it hold you back. You can do anything. And I really believe that.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your experience and your expertise, Matt.
Okay, thank you for your time.